It's not locked in because it doesn't say consecutive. I think it's an open question. And of course, you see their entire meltdown. I had 100 articles about that. All the other
it was everywhere. But the Constitution does say 2 terms, though, right?
2 terms. But it's 2 consecutive terms. It's ill-defined, right? It's still ill-defined. You could have consecutive. It's open for interpretation.
My favorite headline was Steve Bannon, MAGA scholar.
MAGA, exactly.
That was great.
I came here to say Trump 2028.
All right. What do we have to do to get Trump 2028?
We got to show up and stay loud.
Exactly. We got to maybe work the Constitution too. Although I think there's a way to slip through there, but you never know.
You just got to keep repeating it over and over. You got to desensitize them to it until they get used to it.
I like that. You're good. That's a psyop. You're in a psyop right now. The Republican Party and Johnson and all these Johnsons today where you can't run for president again. Polly Pockets, you got no say-so in this, okay? Just shut up and sit off in the corner. You're running the Duma right now. Just go over and run the Duma. Not interested in what you have to say on any topic, much less this topic.
Over just this past year alone, Steve Potato Bannon, and I only say that because he looks like a potato,
just shut up and sit off in the corner,
running his mouth about throwing away our Constitution, for the very important reason of getting his dear leader to stay in power as long as possible.
He's going to get a 3rd term. So Trump 28. Trump is going to be president in 28. And people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is. But there's a plan, and President Trump will be the president in 28.
I've covered Steve Bannon long enough to know you don't just flip off what he is saying.
I'm a firm believer that President Trump will run and win again in 2028. So I've already endorsed President Trump. A man like this comes along once every century if we're lucky. We've got him now. He's on fire, and I'm a huge supporter. Want to see him again in 2028.
You know he's term limited. How do you think he gets another term?
We're working on it. I think we'll have a couple of alternatives. Let's say that. We'll see. We'll see what the definition. We'll see what the definition of term limit is.
He even got a personal shout out from Trump himself. The man that made Bannon sent to prison on his behalf. Got a shout out from Trump on True Social, the website that is nothing but lies. Earlier this month, however, recent revelations from the released Epstein files are throwing that relationship in some serious jeopardy. Hell of a year. Next will be biblical. Epstein misspells. Steve Bannon replies, "We either own 2019 or it will surely own us." Epstein replies, "I'm back in the F&B biz only." Bannon says F&B director. Epstein, highbrow as always, says, "No, it does not stand for blow. Hardy, hardy, heart. Spoke to my Dems this weekend. Boy, our emotions running high." Bannon replies, "Gonna blow 'em up right out of the box. White House has zero plan to punch back. Fort Apache with no cavalry en route." Epstein says, "And no soldiers in the fort. He really is borderline. Not sure what he may do." Bannon says, "I think it's beyond borderline. 25 amendment," which of course refers to kicking Trump out of office by saying he's unfit for office due basically to insanity or incapacitation. So, Trump may not love hearing that too much. I'm just guessing. A man whose ego is so fragile may not want one of his biggest supporters saying that he should be forcibly removed from office against his will. That's just a thought. Could be wrong about that. And of course, it is sloppy redactions from Trump's Department of Justice that allowed us even to link these message records from Steve Bannon to Jeffrey Epstein and to know it was Epstein, even though for some reason Epstein's name was originally redacted.
Every message between Steve Bannon, Trump's chief White House strategist, and Jeffrey Epstein are linkable because if we take the content of one of these messages from Steve Bannon and plug it into the search, you can find an iMessage record of Jeffrey Epstein sending it. And on many occasions presenting ideas that feel like orders that end up becoming the real decisions of the Trump administration. This one's really in your face. 10th anniversary of the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy. Returns if you bought stocks that closed that day and held to today. Steve Bannon's response, and wages flat. So rich people are turning their money into more money, while working people do not see more money as compensation for their increased productivity. It is their intention to run the economy this way. Epstein also seemingly paid Steve Bannon's medical expenses when he was sick. This is a very close relationship. And another strategy from Jeffrey Epstein to Steve Bannon: careful about the racist part. You seem to accept the characterization. Iraq, Libya are disasters. Easy to blow up the place. But what comes next? So I would stress the working man gets to have hope again. Job security, safety. They literally manufactured the idea of populism to distract from the fact that pedophile elites were running the government.
Here's John Ossoff calling it out plain as can be about the overall complete false promise of what MAGA is supposed to represent to working class Americans and what it in fact actually is.
But this is a government of, by, and for the ultra-rich. It is the wealthiest cabinet ever. This is the Epstein class ruling our country. They are the elites they pretend to hate. So prices are up, jobs are going away, Medicaid and school lunches are slashed, nursing homes are getting defunded. If you're Steve Bannon and your pitch was Trump for the forgotten man and woman, how do you sell any of this? Trump was supposed to fight for the working class. Instead, he's literally closing rural clinics and hospitals to cut taxes for George Soros and Elon Musk.
I mean, in fact, the current Epstein scandal is a perfect microcosm of how power works in America and how that power is distributed, especially when it comes to money and politics and the actual beneficiaries of the vast majority of our country's policies. It's a bunch of people who only care about themselves, already incredibly well off, enriching only themselves further and further. Everyone else be damned. Even when our courts say common people must be protected, documents must be released, all Epstein files must be released, they delay, then they release some overly redacted for no reason. I mean, even redacting Epstein's name. And then Pam Bondi claims that all of the files have been released, finally, which of course is a lie, because according to one report, only 2% of the trove, the many tens and 20s and 30 terabytes of information that the feds gathered has been released. So, 2% is not quite all. I'm not a math genius. That's not even a tiny bit of. So there's that.
Attorney General Pam Bondi said the Justice Department has released all of the millions of the Epstein files required by law. But some lawmakers are arguing that release is still insufficient and that there are still crucial files missing. The DOJ also provided a long list of more than 300 high-profile names mentioned in the files, but critics from both parties are calling that decision a way to muddy the waters and to distract from who really is a predator.
That's where we are in America now. You can just make up your own facts. You can lie. You can protect criminals and pedophiles and sex traffickers, and your support won't wane because you're too far gone, I suppose, in a lot of instances where you aren't able to realize the error of your ways, and so you're just kind of pot committed, even though it truly, in fact, is never too late to fold a hand, get up from the table, and quit gambling, with our lives, with our Constitution, with our country, with our morals. But, up to you. You'll figure it out eventually. I'm Ben Gleib for Rebel HQ. You can follow me at Ben Gleib on Instagram for lots more, including stand-up comedy videos that are not political in nature, because sometimes it's nice to laugh and take a break from the stuff you laugh at because it's so sad. You get it. Okay, bye.